some more fun. So,
I do like them.
we have found the least competent fraudsters of all time, which is, of course, Black Lives Matter Bristol.
I love putting the Bristol on that. I don't know what it is.
It just sounds stupid, doesn't it? Frankly,
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter Bath. It's just like
Black Lives Matter Aberystwyth. Yeah. There's just something really silly about it.
yeah. So this is just a feel-good story, I suppose. So
Good.
let's enjoy it. So this is we'll get this on screen. This is the Mail Online reporting that a Black Lives Matter fraudster who organised the demonstration that toppled the Colston statue, this being a local man who didn't do nothing, and they destroyed that. She raised at £30,000 and then just spent it all on herself. So she has been given a sentence of 2.5 years.
So one, you only raised 30k.
Well, it is British politics.
Yeah, I know.
We can't grift like the American BLM.
Yeah, the American BLM raised $1 billion. You only got 30k, you absolute losers.
But she is going to jail.
Oh, wow. Shocked.
I'm in awe, frankly, that anyone goes to jail for doing the regime-approved thing.
2.5 years, though.
Yeah, it's not the most. It is about in line with what I read the sentencing guidelines to be for fraud.
Right, okay.
You have to get about 4 years. You have to steal 100 grand. And
Right, okay.
you can get up to 10 years if you go over 500,000.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, what is of it? But the details in here might be fun. So they say in here, the BLM organizer received £32,344, or good boy points, in donations raised from 558 individual contributions. She went on to spend the money earmarked for local charities to fund her own lifestyle.
She couldn't even scam 600 people.
No.
This was national news for weeks.
One thing I can't quite get over, though, is if I gave you 32 grand, I know it's not $500 million, but to me, I'd find it quite hard to pocket that in just lifestyle spendings.
Hi folks, we've rolled out a new feature on the website, which is the ability to pay for an individual piece of content. So usually it's £5 a month every month to subscribe to all of the content on the website. But I appreciate there are going to be people who simply don't want to do that. They would be interested instead in purchasing a single piece of content for a lower amount, and they've got a particular niche that they're interested in watching. And so they don't want every single piece of content. They just want this one thing. So we've introduced this function where you can just simply purchase the one thing for £1.89, which I think is about $2.30 at the current exchange rates. And then that's just yours forever. So there's no sort of commitment there. There's no rolling subscription. It's just that one thing. So that's an option now that's on the website. It's completely live. It's completely available. And please go and enjoy it. And we'll see you all very soon.
Like, I'm not really sure how expensive some of the stuff she was doing is, because they only tell us some of the things she spent the money on.
Hasn't she got to pay for like nails and and wigs?
How did you tell?
Weaves.
Is that real?
Is that really?
You haven't read it, and you do know.
Is it really?
Sincerely, Bo has not read the notes. And
I assume it'd be like cars and housing.
no. Firstly, rent.
Right, there we go.
Well, that is expensive, fair enough. Hair and beauty appointments. You were right on the money. Takeaways. How do you spend 30 grand? Okay.
I mean, at least, what's her name? Patrice Cullors bought bloody mansions.
Yeah.
You know, our one's getting Chinese.
How much are you spending on
My
Chinese?
nails.
But even to get through 30 grand on Chinese and stuff.
Pathetic.
She also brought
I demand a better quality of Fraudster.
She also brought a new iPhone, so that's 600
Oh,
quid.
wow, there we go.
Most.
Yeah.
An iMac, so that's a couple of grand or something. Amazon purchases. How expensive is that? But it turns out she spent 6,000 of the pounds on Uber.
We need a better quality of corrupt.
It's a bit like Brewster's Millions. Like, you've got to try really hard. You're trying every single day to spend as much money as you can.
And it's just kind of crap.
George's 30k.
Well, I felt like I could do more.
Sequel.
How do you I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of taking taxis in general. Just
Why
because.
wouldn't you buy yourself a nice car rather than take taxis if you had 30k just dropped in your lap?
But imagine, yeah, just take that 6 grand, buy a car.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an amazing car.
Take
It's
15 grand, buy a
piece of
quite
car.
nice one. You know, like
Dare to dream.
exactly. Yeah, go wild. You know, get a Jaguar, spend the whole 30k. You know,
But also, at the risk of stating the obvious, what an amoral scumbag.
Yeah.
Because how could you live with yourself? The shame that being a fraudster, okay, one thing, stealing money from somewhere, somehow, okay, but you did it in the most morally reprehensible way possible. people's guilt about the Atlantic slave trade.
I mean, I obviously
Wow.
can't sympathize with her because I wouldn't steal 30K grifting on guilt over the transatlantic slave trade.
Well, we'll get the image on screen just so people can have a look.
But like, I just I come to the conclusion these people just don't basically feel guilt. I don't think she feels guilt.
No sense of
No.
of ethics or morality or anything
Obligation
like
to
that,
others or
or
consideration.
guilt, anything. Yeah.
There is some speculation in the chat. Maybe she's very fat if she'd spent $6,000 on taxis.
She's
I'm
not
not-
that fat.
But
She's just
Uber's
kind of
not
normal.
even that expensive. Like I remember
She's pretty fat.
the most.
She's not that.
Okay, well, the most expensive taxi I've ever taken is I went from I think it was Stansted to Swindon, just because I buggered up my timings. The flight was late, and it was either spend basically that much on hotel and then train, or
Yeah.
£300 to go from Stansted to Swindon, which isn't fun. But that's a long journey.
Yeah.
That's only £300. How do you spend $6,000 on Ubers?
In Bristol.
Sorry, it's just something that stuck with me. I don't
It
understand.
must be habitual. It must be everywhere she goes at all times.
Yeah.
Maybe her
Is
brother is an
an
Uber
Uber.
driver.
Well, remember, I think one of the things I've got to remember is I think people like herself view this money as reparations, right? And so actually, it's
Probably.
well, I bet they do. I bet she is. I bet she's had these conversations with people around her and they're like, "Are you just going to take my money?" So
This
what's
money's for
reparations?
Black Joy.
Yeah, exactly. They've got an excuse for everything.
I just imagining, because I've seen some footage every year this happens, of course, in the United States, where someone puts out a big bowl of candy and it has a sign that says, "Please take one," because you live in the suburbs. And then some scumbags turn up with their kids and take the whole lot. I mean, there is.
Some human pig
Why-
hybrid.
I
of
just
a
imagine
human
it
being.
reparations stealing the candy. But anyway,
Well, I actually had to have this with my kids last night because I took them trick or treating, and people leave a bowl of sweets, and you have to emphasize to a 2-year-old take one because he just sees handful. Right now, that's fine because he's 2, nearly 3. Obviously, you've got to have that conversation with him. You know, my 8-year-old doesn't need to be told. He takes one, leaves them for everyone else because you go to each house, you take one from each house. Everyone wins. It's actually, I mean, you wouldn't need to explain it to a normal person. But then you have Black Lives Matter activists.
Well, you've got a sense of fair play.
Yeah.
And being reasonable.
Yeah, and just doing the right thing
Right.
and not stealing all the sweets so no one else gets any.
which is why the police will arrest you and none of these people.
It's
Can't
like
help it.
toxic whiteness.
This isn't the only money she is being charged with stealing, though. That's one court case in which she
Oh, it's only you.
demanded money. There's another fundraiser here. This is to raise money for those who destroyed the statue.
Right.
This is to pay their legal fees because, of course, they didn't do nothing, even
Yep.
though they were on camera doing it.
Yep.
This is 28 grand, as you can see. Again, British money, so it's never $500 million. But I just wanted to remind ourselves of how that went because she's still pending something for that charge, is my understanding. I just want to remind everyone just how corrupt our country is, frankly, on a human level. Because you can see here, the police at the time of the destruction of one of these statues said they didn't intervene because they were too much of a bunch of pussies.
Because we don't govern the brown people. That's that's it. Whatever they say.
Yeah.
It's, well, we don't govern the brown people.
Could have
It's an-
sparked a riot, is the direct quote.
It's an
we go.
absolute dereliction of duty. They didn't get involved because they were physically scared.
Yeah.
That is the real reason.
No one's scared of these people.
I think I'm not
Well,
even
they
sure.
must have
I
been.
think it's morally scared. I think they themselves don't have the courage of their own convictions as policemen and feel that actually, well, that something greater is going on with the non-whites, and so that's not our business. I really think that's what they believe.
But
I mean, there are going to be
think
ones
you're
that are
right.
scared. Obviously, they're
look
definitely-
at these people. I remember the day.
Yeah.
It was
But-
not a scary incident.
Yeah, but
if you're
these-
a police officer and you wanted to get in there like a nice Russian police officer and batter some protesters, you'd have fun.
These
but
guys
they-
have got such soft hands. They've got to put gloves on to roll the statue into the bloody water.
They fished it out, right?
Yeah, they did.
They did, didn't they?
Put it in a museum or something.
But what happened to the criminals? Well, they were cleared of all charges because they didn't do it, even though they were on camera doing it.
Moral fear.
No, it's worse than that. In fact, do
Go on.
you remember the defense? The defense was that the removal of the statue helped to prevent another crime. Therefore, we're not guilty
What other crime?
of criminal damage. Now, the crime that they were stopping was the display of the statue itself, which, according to the defense,
Right.
that was a criminal act by being indecent or abusive in its material, saying that the Colston's continued veneration in a vibrant multicultural city was an act of abuse. A lawyer stood up in a British court, said those words,
And the judge was like, "Good point."
Well, no, the jury did.
Oh,
It was a jury trial.
Bristol jury, isn't it?
You want to guess how tight that was? It was 11-1. There were 12 people on a jury.
Imagine being the one person who's got to sit there and go, you're all mad, right?
I mean, how?
It's the 12 angry men scenario, but with just a guy who's given up. Just like, yeah, but no, you're all mental. No.
So that has descended into
Precedent.
a state of
Literal lawlessness.
of madness.
Yeah. So the jury did not provide any rationale. In case you were wondering, they did not for that decision. And of course, this blew up because the Home Secretary was like, "No, sorry, that is madness." She did come out and say that has to be destroyed. That ruling,
I mean,
because we can't have that. Of course, the Guardian then accused her of political meddling for daring to say that the law should apply to brown people.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even brown people, it's a bunch of bloody students.
Yeah,
Like, most of them are white.
they represent something, which is our deep guilt about being white.
Yeah.
said the police. So this went to...
Which is why we need an Indian Home Secretary who's like, look, I don't have that, actually. You're mad.
So
you know?
it did go to an appeal court, and the appeal court did rule that it was unlawful. That can't become case law. That is legal nonsense, and the jurors are all crayon munchers for believing it. But then the appeal court decided that they were just going to continue to allow those human beings to be innocent and not convicted of the crime. I'm not really sure how that works,
No.
which is that clearly this was a mistrial. Everyone involved was, I don't know, snuffing.
Compromised, shall we say?
Yeah. But then the adults in the room, the appeal court went, we're just not even going to bother and go back and charge those people. Which means that the only person who is facing justice for any of that is, of course, our dear friend.
Right. So the 4 white students got off scot-free.
They did
The
indeed.
black woman went to jail. This is anti-racism. Got it.
I really wonder
Understood.
if they have the other picture, because, of course, she has now decided she's a Muslim. Which, as you can see there.
What? What?
That is actually an amazing procession of justice for the anti-racists.
She decided, I'm guessing, because she's decided to start putting on hijabs and whatever this is.
Yeah.
So as she was being charged with crime, she was like, but I'm Muslim.
What's the full-blown thing? Is it a niqab? Is that the full face?
Yeah, that's the full one.
That one there.
So she's got full-blown...
The penguin outfit is the niqab, as my Arab girlfriend used to call it, so I'm allowed to say that.
All right.
So there we are.
Didn't give you a pass, does it?
Yeah, I think so.
I dated an Arab once.
Yeah. No, in the Arab world, they literally, so the girls who don't wear niqab, they'll see the other ones doing it, and they, of course, because women are quite bitchy, they'll sit around and be like, there are the penguins are coming.
Okay.
They refer to them as Boris Johnson did.
She really should have.
Decades.
She really should have had a bit of lace across her eyes. Really, otherwise,
I think there's a difference between niqab, burqa, and hijab and stuff. Like, I think that's the difference between niqabs and burqas. So
well, she's also showing her hands. I mean, what's wrong with her? I mean, sincerely, I've got.
She's a practice Muslim. She's just learning how it works.
Right. Yeah. I suppose when you're in charge of the crime,
it's expediency, isn't it? Really.
I've now got a criminal record. Well, time to learn.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to figure out this Muslim.
I never understand outside a court or something when people try and hide their face, whose image is already in the
Yes.
public domain. Like, we know we've got pictures of you already.
What could she possibly look like?
Yeah, right.
I love how she's wearing like lace here as well. I'm sorry, you can't turn around and be like, I'm an Orthodox Muslim after that. It's a whole other conversation. But her defense lawyer, Tom Edwards, he stood up in court and said she's extremely sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
But what's the defense?
That was it.
Okay.
What? No. I've got a better defense, he says. She was only 20.
Okay. But what's the defense?
Old enough to know better.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
The legal age of criminality, I think, is 10 in this country. She's double that. She was 20. She's sorry. But she was also trusted with this money when she was living away from home for the first time.
Right.
Again, no defense detected. So sweating, presumably, because we don't allow cameras in the courtroom, so I've got to guess. He got up and then said that she's a druggie, an alcoholic. So she I'm not joking.
Excuse me, Your Honor. You're going to have to understand, my client's on drugs. That's why they should go free.
The direct quote was, she's been drinking heavily and taking drugs at the time. She's also had mental health issues. So
bet.
she's a mental druggy alcoholic.
And I could just
Let
hear
her
Peter
off.
Hitchens. I told you.
Yeah. Another. I think court cases in Bristol might be the funniest on planet Earth.
But I love the idea that the judge's like, drugs are illegal as well, right?
But there must be like in the room where all the lawyers prepare, the little drinking fountain there. There must be just using lead piping or something. Because how else do you get multiple defense lawyers standing up and being like, "Well, here's my defense, and it's just gobbledygook."
Like she must have been buying extremely rare Johnny Walker or something. Booze isn't that expensive. She hasn't been spending money on that particular wig, has she?
No, she only gets the best meth. So I don't.
A scumbag.
Oh yeah.
But the other aspects of this trial don't even make any more sense. So just to remind you of why she asked for that 30 grand in the first place, she wanted to set up the protest.
That cost 30 grand, does it?
Well, apparently, she said in the crowdfunding page that it was to raise money for face masks.
Oh, this was during COVID, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's 30 grand's worth of face masks.
That was a face mask. Millions of face masks.
And then it was promised that, of course, because people figure out maybe it doesnn't cost 30 grand to buy.
And she turns up in a niqab. It's like, what?
Yeah, just put some panties in your mouth instead. Apparently that's would work. So there we are. They have, instead, she said that I'm not just spending money on face masks. I'm going to then spend the money on a charity.
I thought you were going to say a chariot.
No.
Which I would have been more forgiving of.
Well, she picked Changing Your Mindset Limited.
What's that?
Well, they are very...
One of her friends runs that, right?
No. She's not that corrupt. They're a very legitimate charity that helps poor youths of all kinds and provides them with essential water and food as they go on a trip to Africa. I'm not joking. Literally, all they do is take kids on trips to Africa.
Holidays to Africa, right?
Yes, Holidays to Africa was the charity she chose, which... I'm sorry, no one involved in any of this story is a reasonable human being. Not the charity. That's a terrible idea for a charity. Not the people stealing the money, not the people giving the money. And the lawyers with lead poisoning, I just feel bad for. So...
No, they get paid. I don't feel bad for them at all.
I suppose so.
Yeah. Should have been recusing themselves. Sorry, Your Honor. I'm not insane. I can't take this case.
You would have thought. But I'll just end this off with probably the best fraudster of all time for this week, because I don't want it to go by the wayside. The Labour Party, who decided to come out, Welsh Labour, and demands that we must celebrate Black history, because it is indeed Welsh history.
Man, there is a coal mining joke in here.
I love the bottom line, though.
I just can't seem to dig it out.
There is no history of Wales without the history of Black experience in Wales.
But unironically, picture of coal miners in blackface. That's, in a way, they're right.
Sure, but coal mining jokes aside, what does that mean? There is no history of Wales without the Black experience of Wales.
Now, just picture Vox Pops somewhere in Africa. Have you ever heard of a country called Wales? No. In the sea? Like, what are you talking about? No one in Africa knows what Wales is.
Who do they think they're kidding? This is
George
Welsh
W.
Labour.
Bush didn't know what Wales was.
Right.
There's no way some guy in Senegal has any idea what Wales is.
Are they actually trying to make the argument that sort of the valleys of South Wales or the Snowdonia region or Anglesey has got, got any connection to sub-Saharan Africa? Is that?
Yep.
Is they actually trying to say that?
It's not even there's a connection. It's indivisible, as they say.
Right.
Hang on,
There's
lads.
no history of
It
Wales.
has always been a close connection.
This is more insane than you're even thinking, because you're responding to the typical claim, which is that Black history is British history or something like that, right? They said here, there is no history of Wales without the Black experiences of Wales. So
without the history of Black experiences. And that's actually quite interesting, because the history of Black experiences could also include the sort of negative of it, right? So there is no Black experience here. So technically, if you were charting the history of Black experiences, you would have to explain where there isn't one and where there is one, right? If you were going to do a well-rounded historical analysis. So in a technical way, they're not wrong.
You haven't hit on the worst part of that. That wasn't what I was thinking. Literally, if a Black person doesn't hear it, there is no Wales. Read it again. That is actually what they've said. If there's no Black person to hear the Welsh, there is no Welsh language. There is no history of Wales without the Black experiences in Wales.
That's a great point.
If only white people sing choral music in the valleys of Wales and there's no Black ears to hear it.
Didn't happen.
Did it happen?
Nope.
Roman invasion of Britain didn't happen. Anglo-Saxon invasion of Britain didn't happen. Norman invasion of England didn't happen.
Nope.
But around 1540 or whenever Henry VIII got that one Moorish guy over to play the trumpet, that's when Britain began.
The fog of war was
literally
cleaned
the
up.
fog of war. Suddenly Wales exists.
We discovered apparently there's this place called Wales that started now. Oh my
It's
Jesus
sort of-
Christ.
It's that it's the insane position, isn't it? If not only do we want to make your country black or more
Ours.
black, it has always been as well.
And before we came, it literally didn't exist, says the representatives of left-wing Wales.
Welsh Labour.
So you have to just forget the literary evidence and archaeological evidence. You have to just pretend that doesn't exist.
Well, it didn't until a black person saw it.
So
So just bring a friend.
it's not like
I just want to be clear that this is the lived experience epistemology being taken to its logical conclusion, right? This is absolutely how they want to put the locus of the world's experiences through the eyes of people of colour. And therefore, actually, Wales does exist in about 1540 or whenever that Thomas guy arrives from Spain. Like that's literally what they think. You know, this is their entire philosophical framework, actually.
not that Owen Glendower was actually from the Ivory Coast
I mean, he might have been.
or
Like,
something.
they'll probably find a way.
Tariq Nasheed entered the chat.
Oh.
She's like, Suleiman, he was a black man.
They will absolutely try and find a way of like post hoc rationalizing in order to make the narrative as firm as possible. But if it doesn't exist, then they'll just ignore it. They don't care.
Llewellyn ap Griffith was actually Nigerian, or Uther Pendragon was ethnically Bantu.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Can't prove that it's not. Actually, genetic studies have shown that Tutankhamun was most closely related to the Irish, apparently.
Well, there we have it.
It's very interesting.
I heard that one before. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you are. There are the literally worst fraudsters on planet Earth. And good luck to the mental cases. Enjoy the lead poisoning. If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Symposium series, this episode on whether or not Western societies can survive. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.